uses it, the cord.
Oh,
We need
But I
it
do,
for the cord,
oh,
right?
wait,
well
wait,
then
wait.
she's gonna have to just ruin it.
So I'm gonna have to stay in my room.
Stay in your room.
I didn't even think of that.
Oh, Susan?
Hi there.
They want me in here with the
How did this
running.
extra tumbled?
Well, I can do the Zoom so people can see better, but I can't do it. Well, yeah, I can.
This while everybody's
yeah.
talking, as opposed to move the whole laptop, right? If
I
only
think
the
Dee had it
laptop.
on like a vase or something.
Yeah.
So then,
She could spin it.
Like that?
yeah.
We'll get it.
Yeah, she brings the vase with
What is
her.
that, the camera?
Oh, we have vases. We've got tons.
No, a vase, not a vase.
What is that, a camera?
Vase,
No,
vase,
vase.
Oh, you did
vase.
say vase.
Yeah,
Oh,
vase.
Okay.
Oh,
Vase.
Yeah, right.
that's like tomato or tomato.
Potato.
You can be like Dee.
I don't, okay. I
So
don't know how she does it. Resist. Thanks.
Well, put it inside, then it'll be distorted, it'd be cool.
That's not even, I'm just getting to the
Okay.
website. She's the assistant on
Alright.
camera.
This isn't the reason I came to this meeting.
Okay.
Well, you do, I don't know.
Yeah, no, okay. That's the least of my worries. I'm trying to get the agenda.
Alright.
Face you to the flag.
I played the lead.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Apologize for the delay. We're working on our Zoom feed. On this evening's agenda, we have a ZBA membership discussion, the Arpa Grant uses, a discussion on the bridge out on River Road, and old and new business. So Jim, would you like to lead us
Okay.
off with the ZBA membership?
I wrote up a brief report. It wasn't meant to be a term paper or anything quite like that, okay? And I tried to address
It's in your packet there.
what you had
Like
brought up
midway
in
through.
your, I call it inquiry, or?
Yep.
And I think, I mean, you can all read what I wrote, but I think in summary, I want you to know that I called
Okay,
Steve
that's what it
Buckley,
looks
who's an attorney with the Municipal Association, and who's very knowledgeable. And he agreed with my read on it, that there is no ex officio from the Board of Selectmen to the ZBA. That does not exist. And in looking at 672.5, which is what you quoted, Bert, both ZBA qualify as land, they're both land use boards. Oh, we totally agree on that. But if you go to what describes the board, nowhere in that section does it have an ex officio, okay?
Correct.
A board of selectmen could have a policy that when they appoint people to a particular or they want to have one of their own on it, they can do that.
Yes.
But then that person is appointed for a 3-year term. An ex officio, when they get appointed from, like here to the planning board, their term is the remainder of their term as a selectman. So, if somebody has got, like, let's say next year you were appointed to the, as ex officio to the planning board, you'd effectively be there for 2 years until your term was up. And the other 2 members, if they don't like the way you're voting, okay, can't vote you out, okay? So you have, basically what you have is you don't have to look over your shoulder, I guess, and that's why it's there. So that's all I was trying to say in here. But at the same time, when one goes looking at one thing, one finds something else. And I would strongly suggest that we look at the ZBA and we look at the terms and when people were last, because one member who's on there, the last time he was appointed was, I think, 2016. His term would be up. But at the same time, if a board of selectmen doesn't appoint somebody to replace him, he can continue. It's right in the law, okay? We don't have and a lot of towns do end up with problems with appointed boards like that. You're lucky to find 5 people to serve on it. Okay, thank God I got 5 people. And so you forget about it. They're there. It doesn't happen so much with elected boards because, you know, the town clerk is really keeping track of that because you've got to get the ballot right and all that other stuff. So I would strongly suggest that we look at at least two of our boards that are appointed, the Conservation Commission and the ZBA.
How do you go about changing it to an elected position?
Guided by vote of the people.
Yeah, that would be the entire board though, wouldn't it?
Right, the entire board would become elected.
Right.
Right.
Now, Jim, let me just add on to that while we're still talking about the ZBA. It's been the practice of the Board of Selectmen here in town to appoint one of the selectmen as a member of the board for a 1-year term, and those terms were contingent on that selectman being in office. That's historically how it was done. Mr. Ledge was reappointed for his last year in office by the Board of Selectmen for a 1-year term until he left office. He left office back in March. He has not been attending the meetings. I think it's time
He's
to.
been attending.
I haven't seen his name on the
On the zoning?
on the zoning minutes.
He's
Yes,
there.
okay.
He
All
sits
right.
next to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. But I'm just saying
Yeah.
that I believe the term of office is done if the Board of Selectmen chooses to reappoint another member of this board.
Okay.
Okay, but it's not an ex officio member.
No,
Is that right?
but
Okay,
he self-appointed himself.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm not, you know, when I answered the question, I wasn't answering the question about
Yeah.
local practices. I was answering
Yeah.
the question about.
This is what the
different
RSA
point of view.
said.
Whatever the board wants to do, because the Board of Assessors is made up of 5 people appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
3,
5.
5, okay.
Okay, 5. And those 5 all have 3-year terms.
Okay,
And that's what the law reads.
yes.
Local practice can't supersede the law, but it can happen.
No,
Just by local practice, because when we're doing it, okay? And the person can say, well, I understand, I'm gonna be here for a year, and then I'm gonna quit, and then you can hire somebody else, yeah. But, and so, there's ways of making things work that are not making them illegal.
Okay.
Anyway, I was here to answer the question, but I do think we should take a look at the 2 largest appointed boards we have and make sure everything's up to snuff. And I'm not suggesting get rid of people, I'm just making sure everything is right.
Yeah. All right. No, I agree with that. And I've been working with Debbie on all the boards and their makeups and current memberships. And we're working now to put it together into one document which I hope to have ready for next week. And,
Oh,
yeah, so we should be able to have a, pretty good discussion on this. And instead of just pulling names out of the air, it'll be actual information that we're working off of.
Now,
One other thing, if I could add, and this was a comment by Attorney Buckley, was that it is the New Hampshire Municipal Association's position that it's generally not a good thing to appoint selectmen to a ZBA, because the ZBA, in fact, acts as the court for people who appeal decisions made by the Board of Selectmen.
or as
You
well.
are the cops. So you go out and enforce zoning and laws like that, and when people appeal your decision, in other words, they're gonna go to court. The court is the ZBA.
Okay.
And if you go the other way, if I go to the ZBA, let's say for a special exception, and I don't get it, I can go back and rattle the selectmen about who they appointed, but I can't really appeal it to the selectmen. I'd have to ask for a rehearing, and if that didn't work, I'd have to go to Superior Court. So it's basically, you guys are the cops, and they're the lowest court level, and then from there it goes up to
Okay.
Superior Court. Now that's, hopefully we don't have a lot of that stuff happening, but
Mhm.
that's the pattern. And that's why, Steve said they don't recommend towns do it, but that was his opinion, so. I'm just
in
conveying
general,
what I got.
did he say in general if towns do or not?
Some do, some don't.
And this
You can
town
find any,
has
this town,
historically done it?
I'd have to go back and look. Prior to recent years, I don't know if we go back like 25 or 30 years. I mean, go back to the beginning of zoning, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look in you could look in the town reports
Mhm.
and you get an idea, okay? They can have one,
Yeah.
yeah. And then there's other things about showing what you can and can't be on multiple things. You can wind up with a pile of statutes a while looking at this, but
Mhm.
that's what it comes down. You could appoint one.
Okay. Alright, so are you okay with continuing this till next
Yeah,
week?
I mean, if we have a feel for it, and I would just ask the board, as a question, how they feel about putting one of the selectmen on the ZBA versus ignoring the New Hampshire Municipal Association's recommendation.
Well,
I
my
mean,
thoughts, just with this limited information, I can see the point
It-
that
it's
it
always-
makes,
It-
it
It,
could come across as unfair to a resident to have to be faced with the one he's filing the reason,
okay,
his grievance, but the other thing that really comes to my mind is why isn't it an elected position?
because you would have to you'd have to rewrite the zoning bylaws effectively and get an amendment to them
But wouldn't it be?
to elect somebody to the zoning.
There is
In the
a
towns.
procedure, and I'll get it for you, okay, on how to make an elected board. And it can be done, it would be at the ballot box, and it would be on the warrant.
Yeah.
And there's a very specific procedure on how to do it.
Yeah, and
It
just
seems to me like it would be
historically,
in the residents'
and-
best interest.
and
to be able to-
historically, Jason, the Board of Selectmen have appointed one of themselves to the zoning board for the last 10 years. And at one point, one of the selectmen was sitting on both the planning board and the zoning board illegally.
Well, we're
So
not-
there,
we're not
in
looking to
age of
repeat any
conflicts of
that,
interest.
Yeah.
We have to start fresh and clean.
You can't substitute selectmen either. If somebody's the ex officio to the planning board, you can't have,
Can't play musical chairs?
no.
Okay,
I've seen it done, but it's not right.
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
There's a way to address it.
We're not looking to do that
not
either.
select.
Yeah.
There's a specific way to address it.
Because all the changes that we're making now, I'd like to see and do them in such a way that they live beyond us, so that people know That's part of the reason of creating that document. So it'll be something how, like, you get into the seat and you don't know anything and all you can do is like learn off of what you're seeing. But no, this will be the actual process procedure,
That would be
you know, handed down.
And
like
If
who's
you
on
guys
what.
need a hand
Yeah.
putting stuff together,
And-
you can reach out to me if I can
Yeah,
be
and
of
Ja-
any assistance getting something like that.
And Jason, you asked a question last week about the ex officio to the Heritage Commission versus liaison, and obviously been appointed liaison, but the RSAs do say some interesting things about appointments to the Heritage Commission.
Oh, dude.
That's the one
Specifically.
we.
Very, very specific.
Yeah,
I see the
regarding ex officio, yeah. Huh.
Okay.
Okay, so if we could please make a note, Jim, I'd like to have this, you know, a more in-depth conversation next week, and I'll have the documents ready with Debbie, like with Debbie's assistance.
If you want to know about changing, the last page of this little thing I put together, item number Roman numeral 3A, a body can change from elected to appointed board or from appointed to elected board may be made without amending the zoning ordinance.
Okay,
The town operating under the town meeting form of government, so it would take the properly written article, which could be put in by the board of selectmen.
yeah, but wouldn't that, it would change some sort of language in some regulation, wouldn't it?
No, it could be done as a standalone.
As a standalone amendment? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
And next on the list is the ARPA grant uses.
Yeah.
Did you prepare anything on that, Jim, or? All right.
I
Well,
don't have anything yet, other than the fact that the thing, you have to have it
basically-
in by the 19th.
this is going to be a short discussion, mostly because nobody really knows what we can use it for yet, still. I mean, it's been 2 weeks since we had a heads up that the money was available, but nobody has really defined how it can be used. So what I'm looking for from this board and from any of the other boards and any other person is an innovative use that is quasi-COVID related to spend this money. And if push comes to shove, we are going to have something of a shortfall at the school due to those children who are homeschooled.
We don't honestly know yet.
We don't know, but that second wave of money of $560,000 plus can be used exactly for that purpose. That is one definitive purpose we
Yeah,
can
there
use
was,
it for.
and it's actually being circulated like amongst the schools, and it's just all preliminary numbers. It has that written all over the sheets. But I got some interesting information from Rachel Anderson last week, which I haven't had a chance to go fully through yet. But we'll be looking to, you know, discuss all of that as well. And I
Okay.
believe that it was that second round money that she had specifically. It looks like it's specifically set for the towns to use for the schools,
Okay,
like to
well,
help the schools.
if you have any literature on it, please send it around.
Okay, yeah, I will forward that through.
If I could just say one thing to that?
Yes.
I read somewhere that the school has over $1 million in surplus from last year. I don't know that to be true, but they have a significant surplus from last year.
Okay,
I was,
So
well,
why
I was
not?
also under the impression they were gonna have a shortfall this year.
yeah, and
Well, they have a
so I, like, without getting too far down into this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have some information that I wanted to get prepared before tonight's meeting, but I didn't have a chance to, and I will for next week. So again, we'll add that to the agenda for
Yep.
next week, the discussion.
Yeah, the shortfall here, the surplus there can come out somewhere between.
Yep, and I have some of those numbers as well. She sent a whole bunch of information over last week, after our discussion
If you won't have a
Tuesday.
copy of this, that's the entire ARPA
Yep.
file.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep.
Okay,
Success, you've got it in,
All
okay?
right.
Now what? Okay.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
find out.
yeah, exactly.
It seems like one legitimate use we could have would be for broadband expansion. It seems like, would that be on no questions asked?
no, unfortunately,
It's not.
what you have to do is partner with a company that does broadband or internet or something along those lines. And I'm
See you,
not
Ron.
quite sure how that works or what our current relationship is with anybody who does broadband, other than we receive services. But can we enter into a partnership, and how would that work? I don't know, but you're right, it's a legitimate use, but only in conjunction with a registered server of some sort. So, we should explore it, and I think Lou Alvarez is, as well as Craig Smith.
Thank you.
Towns can float a bond issue for.
One second, John. Ron's in the audience that came in. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I would like to know, why can't we use, if we get this money, why can't we use it towards that 1.7 million that shortfall? All of it.
We're not saying that we can't. But
Well,
we're
I
just
think
gonna take a
it'll
look
be
at.
good. I think it'll be a good deal for the taxpayers in town.
Yeah, so the way that we're setting everything up, is that we'll have the money, and once we figure out how it can be used and what the best way is it should be used, then we'll have those discussions. But right now, we just made sure that we have the accounts ready to go, and like we're all signed up to receive the money.
Okay.
And yep, thank you. John, did you have a comment?
Yeah, on this, thank you for allowing me to comment. So one comment as a citizen is, it would be an interesting concept, and I know that Mr. Alvarez, who's in the audience, and Mr. Smith are working on the broadband initiative, but at the same time, could we have a mini broadband initiative in town where we're using some of these funds to maximize the upload, download speeds and antennas that are used for broadband at town facilities, so that if we do end up in another COVID-based connection, that at least folks can pull in by the police station, they can pull in by the fire department, they can pull in by town hall, they can pull in by the library. That would seem to be a modest cost item. So that was just one of my suggestions. The
Okay.
other suggestion as a member of the planning board is that, if I recall correctly, and you all are there right now, we have hydronic heating in town hall and, water heating. So there's
Is it?
limited to no air exchange in that room.
This is,
It looks like forced hot air, right?
unless that's just the AC.
I don't know. I'm not sure, John.
It's forced hot air, I think.
Would it be possible to explore putting in something in the town meeting room that offers a more significant air exchange to make it a little safer for people who attend in person during COVID? Maybe that's upping the capacity of the current system. And I mean, and if you were to do it building wide, that could increase the safety for town employees. Perhaps you could add a HEPA filter to the system, or upgrade the system in one way to increase safety for town employees and anybody who has to go to town hall. That's just my thought.
Are the HVAC bids gonna touch that?
What's that?
Okay.
Those HVAC bids, are they gonna address that?
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
believe it, I don't
No.
believe that was in the scope.
I don't think it is. I think it's the unit, it's the unit itself.
Yeah.
But I would think that you could put a HEPA filter in a room this size as a freestanding unit that could keep this room, provided you didn't open the windows. We're getting screwed.
Just an idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
we could do it to all the rooms. There are professional HEPA filtering systems that are standalone units. All of those things could make, town hall a safer environment.
This is forced hot air. This is forced hot air in here.
Okay.
I know, I can tell by looking at the duct right over there.
Yeah.
This is forced
And there might
air.
be some hydronic too, and it's mixed. I think it is mixed.
This building's
In the
a little bit
building,
of
but in
Yeah, in
this
the
room,
building,
it's
in this room,
hot
yeah,
air
yeah.
though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's noted, John. Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
And since we have Lou Alvarez on the line, Lou, do you care to speak towards John's suggestions of upgrades to the current broadband infrastructure? And if you guys would be willing to look at that as a part of what you're doing?
We're right in the middle of it. Craig Craig's been doing most of the legwork on it, but we're setting up a, first of all, we did meet with Jim and the person from the local company that handles the internet for the office. And prior to that, with Scott, we had met with, over the contract with Xfinity or Comcast. And they gave us the contact information for the person that would handle the broadband stuff. What Craig and I are looking at is how much of the town is actually covered, because the map that we received from Comcast doesn't seem to match the real world. And two, we're putting out a questionnaire that is being drawn up by the Southwest Regional Planning Commission broadband group, and to find out where we are and where we can go with that.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you for the update. But do you think that you guys could also look into beefing up, like I guess the signal output? Is that where you're speaking to, John? Is that?
Yeah, I'm just talking about increasing the range and or capacity of the Wi-Fi that exists at current town facilities.
Okay, that's what I thought. So.
And that's one of the things that we're looking into right now, because it seems that the town had gone for one of the slowest internet throughput speeds, and that really needs to get kicked up with all the traffic that we're getting with the extra people. And this is just internal to the building and internal, well, actually all the buildings. The throughput right now, and that's wired, is only 70 megawatt or less. And we should be up at least 400, if not 2 gigabit speeds, considering the workload that the town clerk has to do with auto registrations and having communications, adequate communications with the state computers.
Okay.
As far as actual Wi-Fi type service, when we finally get to talk to Comcast about that, that would require Xfinity to set up some antennas on the utility poles, and we would be able to have more outside service from throughout town. But that would come at a cost, and I don't know if the money's available to come. Would be able to support that, or if that would have to be a bond issue or whatever. Right now, approximately 90% of the town has got internet service, but there's a program called the Last Mile that Comcast has that supports us from where it ends over to the town line. And we have to see, hopefully through the survey, what the effect is and how many people are actually affected by that, or by that lack of service.
Okay.
Just one more question to
Yeah.
Lou. I know you're working on the CIP. Are there any items on that wish list that we could convert to this particular use? Somehow COVID related or quasi related?
Part of it is all going to be tied in, and once the, as you know, one part of the Vertex Tower build is expanding the emergency services, and internet obviously would be part of that emergency services scenario. So once we get some more feedback on what's happening with the cell tower, we'll know where we can go and what it's going to cost.
Okay.
Thank you, Lou. I'm looking forward to that full report and you guys' recommendations. Thank you for working on that. Thank Craig for me too. All right.
What was the deadline for actually applying for these ARPA funds?
We've already done so. We've filed our initial application.
But that doesn't, we don't get anything right now because we haven't said what it's for.
Well, no,
Correct.
I think they give you the money and
They,
then you spend it.
once
on-
you hand them the application, then you're in line for the full amount of the funds.
Well, you don't first get approved for usage.
No, I don't believe so, but then there's the reporting issues, and depending on the amount of funds you get, there's different reporting dates, and I think we're in the lowest possible category because we're very small. But I believe there's something due the 31st of October, is it?
Possibly, but right now, the big date, the drop dead date is filling out the form, getting all the let's call them code numbers the town has with the state and that sort of stuff, financial code numbers, getting all that in the application, getting the application approved. And the 19th is the drop dead date. We were in a week or two ago, and so we're all set there. What we haven't got is a lot of good information. Okay, here's the money, now what? Okay?
Yeah.
We just don't have it.
Mhm.
And it's, so I see other towns with the same thing going. It's like, okay, now what? Okay, we're gonna find out. I mean, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon. I've noticed. I got a flyer from Hoyle Tanner Associates. They're an engineering firm down in Massachusetts, and they're starting to offer services for projects that are COVID related, you know, environmental services. What it amounts to, I don't know, but there are a number of other engineering firms that are trying to collect their fee out of this money.
Yeah, get their piece of it, so.
Yeah,
Oh, it's like somebody threw a bunch of trout in the pond and everybody's running to the pond.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh, man.
But not sure if it's live bait or lures.
That's right.
Exactly.
Or flies.
Yeah.
Dynamite.
All right.
What happened on River Road?
So that has to do with the property where they're looking to get exceptions for a bridge
Oh, I know
and
that.
build on
I know
the
that.
land. And I kind of went back and forth a little bit with Sue about this last week, and I believe you are probably the most knowledgeable here on that project and
Yeah.
everything surrounding it. And I couldn't remember if we had already kind of tasked you with kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, I was involved with it originally via the planning board. And then the Board of Selectmen, when I was not involved with the Board of Selectmen, cut a deal with the engineer that she would come back and give us all the information and all the certifications and waivers and disclaimers that we could possibly ask for. But apparently she was confused as to what the filing process was going to be. Now, that bridge was put in without a building permit. It does not meet zoning requirements, so I think some zoning issues need to get addressed. Apparently DES, the environmental services, New Hampshire Environmental Services, said, fine, you've done everything you were supposed to. But again, they're working on a shoreline of the bank of the Sauhegan. Basically, it's a fairly substantial navigable waterway, and in full flood, there's no way you can get past that bridge. Now, there are other obstructions, other bridges going across the Sauhegan at various intervals, so that may or may not be a big deal. But we're certainly missing things like, okay, if we grant this person a building permit to build a house across the river and access it by way of the bridge, is that bridge strong enough to hold a fire engine? What sort of services do they expect? What services do it waive? They have steel bollards that I believe are electrically operated, up and down. Do they, one, freeze in the winter? Two, are they permanently in place and you couldn't get a fire engine across if you wanted to? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered before they are granted a building permit or across the river.
Okay. Now, Sue, did you have specific concerns that you wanted to?
I do have a memorandum, and it's from Erin Darrow.
Yeah, she's the
Whole bunch of
project
letters.
engineer.
So she talks about the bridge and, you know, and that it's ready for the fire, it's good for the fire truck. But my question is there some sort of inspection that goes on with this bridge to make sure that it's not gonna rust out? Or, I mean, I did send this to this, maybe Sean can see it.
Yeah.
I did send the specs to the fire
Are you
department.
familiar with this?
I'm familiar in part with it.
Okay.
Now, you
But,
said in that, the bridge has been okayed by the DES.
The work on the embankment and the wetlands that were affected have been approved. The environmental side has been approved by the New Hampshire DES.
Who approved it? Because our zoning board didn't.
No, our zoning board did not, and that was one of the issues, is that we also have a local jurisdiction that was never addressed.
Okay.
So,
and-
as of right
and
now, what do
we
the
don't-
landowners feel like the status is?
They feel like they have the right to go ahead and pull a building permit. That's what my understanding is. I mean, I have
Wow.
not talked to Miss Darrow in well over 2 years. And I have seen no additional paperwork from her or from the owners. I have not checked with our building department whether or not a building application has even been submitted. Nor have I ever seen plans on how the bridge was constructed, nor has it been reviewed for structural integrity,
To your knowledge.
to the best of my knowledge, by
Yeah.
anybody in town that has the capability of doing
I got
so.
a question, guys, if I can just sitting here thinking about it. Wasn't there a bridge there a long time ago?
Yes,
And this is a private road that goes, or a private way that goes into a piece of land, most of which is on the other side of the river, but blocked because of other landowners and no access in.
that's correct.
Okay. And so there, historically, there was a bridge there.
Yes. And in fact, they used some of the old abutments
Right.
to construct
Okay,
this.
and then the other question I would have, I'm just thinking out loud, okay, is when we adopted the building code, did it include bridges?
I believe it says any structure.
We don't inspect bridges. We don't do permits for bridges.
Yeah.
The code says structures, it doesn't say bridges or buildings or
Right,
anything
but
else.
what I'm saying, bridges are rather unique.
Mhm.
They are.
You know, it's different than a house or
Yeah.
a strip mall or something like that.
But you would still admit that it's a substantial structure.
Of course, it's a structure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now we have to have an inspector who understands engineering and bridges, and
Well, the question, I think,
reluctant to
is-
do that, to be
Is,
honest.
do we? If this is somebody's driveway, are we required to?
Well,
That-
I'm gonna go backwards, back to the bridge that's there. They say that they didn't touch water, they didn't affect wetlands, but I wanna know how they built the bridge without going across the wetlands.
Well, like on this report, it states that, the impacts, weren't in jurisdictional wetlands. So I don't know what the jurisdictional wetlands
How
part
did you get
is.
across the river?
Yeah, there's a difference between prime wetlands and what they call ordinary wetlands that the state of New Hampshire differentiates. And this area was not considered a prime wetland, therefore it was not New Hampshire jurisdictional.
Okay, just
The answer-
one moment. Before we recognize John,
Mhm.
are the landowner, like the property owners, looking for permits right now that you know of, or?
Did I send this letter? So these are basically, it's basically Erin's questions, but I mean, so do they need to go to the zoning board? Do they need to go to the planning board? I mean, I'll issue a building permit if everybody says it's okay to, but in talking with Rick is not gonna inspect a bridge,
Mhm.
because he doesn't have that.
Okay, Mr. Slonwaffle?
So I'm going to speak just as the chair of the planning board on this one. And, you know, if this was a subdivision at all, right, we would, and it's not a subdivision because it's a single property. We would look at it from the perspective of the application and whether or not we had to be able to get emergency equipment off there in case there was an emergency at the home. So my concern in this case is really at this point, how does the bridge's, I don't know, construction, rigidity or whatever, impact primarily Chief Lund and our firefighter safety and ambulance service safety getting to the home in case of an incident? When we do have a letter from the engineer that states the standard that the bridge was constructed to. And I'm not an engineer, but that's that. So a suggestion might be, if it's allowed in the building permit process, to ask an engineer hired by the town to ascertain that. And
Okay,
to make the homeowner pay for that. That's all. That's just a comment.
thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of either having the bridge reviewed for structural integrity or getting some sort of disclaimer or a waiver from the homeowner that no emergency vehicles will service that home. Simple as that. You know, the other issues as far as zoning, I think, you know, we can take another look at that, but it's kind of water under the bridge, so to speak.
Yeah,
Over the dam,
Yeah.
under the bridge.
Under the bridge.
You have a class 6 road agreement that may opt as a parallel for people that are on class 6 and long private roads.
Yeah.
There's an agreement for that too.
Yeah, I don't think it may be a private road because I don't know enough history about the bridge that was there, but I know that there is a pathway, a driveway, if you will, on the other side. You can see it, you know, visibly. I would say if they provide us plans of the bridge, you know, the structural plans, the structural calculations, are willing to pay for an independent review, and then tell us that we can actually access that thing without those bollards being in the way, I think they're gonna get a building permit. I think we don't have a choice if everything falls in line.
so should it start, or should it be with us right now, or should they be in front of the planning or zoning?
I would suggest we fire an email off to them, asking them to show us the plans of the bridge, ask them to agree to an independent review of the bridge, and then, you know, once they agree to that, get the independent review, get some comments back, and then come back to this topic and see what's what. We don't have enough information right now.
Yeah,
What would we base this on though? Because
You're based on the weight of a fire engine, or better yet, they're going to be pouring a concrete foundation for the house. Can they get a concrete truck? You know what one of those things weigh, you know, with 10 yards of concrete in
that
it?
would be something they would have to deal with.
Well-
We don't have to make them make a bridge. If
Well,
they-
no, but
well, yeah,
Think
but
about
we
it.
can't issue, like, we shouldn't issue a permit in order, like, to have construction being conducted on the property and then not have it inspected ahead of time.
yeah, you know, but other, you know, I mean, we are in some modest way responsible for the people who travel around and through New Ipswich. And if we've given a building permit, we've implied that that bridge is safe for a concrete truck to pass and repass. I mean,
I don't know if that would hold up legally because,
it,
I mean, I know of jobs that have taken place where people have to offload all the lumber onto their pickup truck because they just looked at the driveway and they said, nope, we're not bringing that truck across. So I don't understand why we would have to, number one, require the homeowner, if it's not a legal obligation on their side, for us to ask them to pay for another engineer. They've obviously had it engineered. Maybe this engineer's paperwork would satisfy
Yeah,
the
I mean-
curiosity that's being expressed here, but
in
but,
almost
just
all.
to make it, anytime we insert ourselves in the middle of, especially just a private driveway, it's another thing that bogs things down for people. You know what I mean?
I absolutely understand where you're coming from, but when you're talking about a major structure that is a safety issue, a peer review is almost always a good idea. And the places I work, in Massachusetts, it's an automatic peer review, even for very simple things.
Right, and that's fine, but is it in New Hampshire? And if it isn't, do we need to implement?
New Hampshire lets a lot of
Massachusetts?
things slide that shouldn't slide. And the question is, does the buck stop here or doesn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And if we don't have any business inserting ourselves into this, then I think we shouldn't.
But would we send a fire engine across this thing, not knowing whether it's safe or not?
If you read that letter, if I recall right, she says, I believe it would not, she wasn't guaranteeing
Yeah.
anything by saying, I believe.
I know, I picked up on that as well.
And,
What was that?
Just, I think it's the first.
And again, if the
paragraph.
fire truck has to go out in 8 years, is that bridge still solid? How do we know that that bridge is still gonna be solid?
Well,
And I
usually,
will say Rick didn't wanna go over that bridge until
It
he saw
appears
something
that the
like that.
bridge,
She said it appears the bridge has a HS 25 load capacity.
yeah, and that's very
Whatever
heavy.
that means.
Well, I
20
mean,
tons,
yeah.
40,000 tons.
yeah, but you run a concrete
How big
truck
is that?
that full, that
They
runs.
just can't. I
That,
mean,
that's
unless they
80,000,
want-
that's 80,000 pounds.
well, I guess
That's
more,
what they have
more so
pumps
than
for.
the,
That's
the
what they have
issue.
pumps for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
there's
you
other ways of-
can't, yeah, but you can't pump 300 feet.
Well,
Well,
that's
you
not,
can
well,
pump.
that's not our problem. The
It isn't.
concrete truck's not our problem.
I
Our
agree.
concern's the safety equipment.
Ambulance, fire.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
John, can I make a comment?
yes.
I understand what you all are saying, and I understand what Jason's saying, and I appreciate it. However, if during the course of construction, a concrete truck goes over the bridge, and Bert is correct, it's gonna be darn heavy, right? Those folks are gonna call 911, and the fire department is going to respond. And that's just the reality of it, is that if anything happens there, they're going to call the fire department or the ambulance service. And if I can make a suggestion, I think this project has sat dormant for quite a long time. If the selectmen would go ahead and require that, along with any building permit, they get a new driveway permit, the bridge is part of the driveway, and then we can ask the developer or homeowner in this case to get an engineering inspection, because your agent is authorized to do that, who turns out is Peter, is normally who you designate to do that. And such an inspection, you know, if you had Kent Brown do it, it might cost the homeowner / developer $600 or $700. And I think in the context of the entire project that they're likely going to spend money on in protecting our town employees, I think that's a pretty modest request for an investment. That's my 2 cents, but from my perspective, it's really about protecting town employees. That's all.
Thank you, John. I can see both sides of the coin, but I kind of, like, I'm erring more on the side of caution, like, as far as our,
Yeah, and it may be that the landowners would be happy to do that. I don't know. The driveway permit was already issued, and it seems, if I was the landowner, I'd be like, what? You already issued it? You're telling me I gotta go through the whole process? I wouldn't be happy with it. I might be just a cranky man.
Who issued the driveway permit? Us or?
It says it was issued anyways.
That was years ago.
It was an existing
2018.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
what,
I
Yeah,
would-
2018, so
We would
that
like
wouldn't
to
be valid
address,
now.
we would like to address any outstanding concerns pertaining to the bridge and to the new driveways, so I haven't given them.
I think a structural review by an independent engineer is absolutely necessary. And I would like to see a set of plans provided to the building department, even if he does not even look at them, doesn't even open them.
Just have them on
Have them on
record.
file, and the letter from the engineer doing the review.
John, I have a question for you. There was a driveway permit issued by the town in 2018.
Yep.
Is there an expiration on driveway permits?
I'd have to go back to the old driveway regs.
Yeah.
And it depends on whether it's in the context of a subdivision or not, and whether it was dormant for 2 years or not. I'd have to go back and look at the regulations. So the other thing is, gentlemen, is if you are, I think the thing that everyone shares concern about here, and I'm gonna go back to this, the safety of the town employees, right? Why didn't the town just pay Kent Brown? If there's a concern about legalities or aggravating or upsetting the homeowner, then the town, in order to protect town employees or town volunteers, because our fire department, they're volunteers, our police officer are employees, then we should just foot the bill to have our engineer give us an evaluation of the bridge.
I don't.
And I know that's more money out of the bank, but for Meredith's folks and for the, so I don't know the new chief's name, I think that's a wise investment.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with Kent doing it normally, except that he doesn't usually do structural work. We would have to go outside with Kent.
If I was doing it from the planning board, I'd have Kent do it. But unfortunately, and in fact, the matter is, if this was something that was really before the planning board would have the right to make the call on that, but it's not, it's before the selectmen.
Yeah, I would
Okay,
not use
thank you.
Kent in this
Okay.
case.
Jim, what's your input on this? Like, do we have a place in this?
I think you have a.
Should we just ask?
You have a safety interest
Mhm.
in general. As far as, you need a person who's a bridge engineer, okay?
Mhm.
Which Kent Brown probably isn't, but I've worked with him years ago. One way to find out where it might be a good place to look for somebody who could help you would be to call the people that, at the DOT that go out and inspect bridges, okay?
Mhm.
They're gonna know. I mean, they're not gonna come down here and do it for us, but they could give us some recommendations probably.
Yeah, I mean,
But you need somebody who's a structural engineer for bridges.
yeah, it's not that hard to find structural engineers. You just look them up in the yellow pages. They're
But
all
this
over
is-
the place.
Yeah.
But to answer your question further, this is a driveway. This driveway has been there a long time, I mean, way back. I'm familiar with the shape of the property because I believe the property backs up to Mrs. Howard's property, okay? And there's no way through. You go up to the end of Matson Road and hang a left. Well, there is no left to hang.
You can't get there
And
from
you
here.
can't get there from here, okay? And there's no right of way in. So you've got a large tract of land that's usable, that's valuable to somebody, but they gotta get over the river to get there.
Right.
And so, I think it's totally different if they were gonna put a big subdivision back there with 20 houses or 10 houses or something like that, then you have a whole different animal. You're building a road.
Mhm.
This is a driveway, okay? And there's, I don't know if every fire truck has to get over something, because I know in some towns, when they go to certain fires in certain places, they can't bring every truck. That big ladder truck is not gonna fit down this road.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
So,
I think you're in it because you're gonna issue a building permit.
correct.
That's what you're in it for. You're in it for issuing a building permit.
So, a compromise to this whole thing, without getting our feet too far into it, would be to,
Okay.
have Sue respond, that they would be, and I'm just throwing this out there right now for conversation, that they can have a building permit issued, but they'd be excluded from emergency services until there's an independent review done of the bridge.
A pumper with 750 or 1,000 gallons of water in it, it's a lot different than an ambulance or a police cruiser, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, they're totally different. If you're concerned about the bridge and what can go over it, and you want like a second opinion, that's what it sounds like, why don't you just ask the people if they're willing to help you get a second opinion? And maybe they're perfectly
Yeah,
willing.
I mean.
Well, and that's where that was going, was just, it's up to them, because
Yeah.
it still leaves the ball in their court.
Yeah.
And I do understand that if the cement truck goes into the water, like if something happens with the bridge and there's a problem, yes, we're gonna have, like our emergency services are going to respond to that, but they're
Well,
not
if
gonna
that
be
happens,
put,
they're not gonna go
well,
over
they're
the
not gonna put,
bridge.
exactly, they're not gonna be putting vehicles over,
I've
over the
seen
bridge.
things like on a public road where there was a damaged culvert. And it was no longer rated for the school bus, 29,000 pounds. The kids got off here, the bus went across, made the turn on the other road, the kids marched around it, and off we went, okay? And that's kind of what you're talking about. You offload it, you put on something else, you go, I mean,
Yeah, so I'm happy if, one, we get a set of plans, two, we get an independent review. We say, fine, we've done our due diligence, issue them a building permit.
But even, like, if, I'm sure they have a structural engineer's report, the one who built this bridge,
That's Aaron Darrow.
what's that?
Aaron Darrow. is
Well,
the
he
engineer.
purchased it from Hanson,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which they are, I believe they're engineers. They have an in-house engineer, and so if we had his report, I mean, just ask the landowner, do you have his report so that we can know what this thing is rated for
Okay.
and see if the fire department.
that provides us
to
the
me
independent
is a-
review, and on top of that, I'd just like to set up plans for our office.
So, Aaron Darrow's specific questions to this were, about the permits needed is specific to the New Ipswich zoning ordinance, Article 10, Conservation Overlay District, Section D3A and
Yeah.
10(4)(C)(3), as the driveway will be built within 50 feet of a wetland, also up to the reference line of the south branch of the Sauhegan River. Is an application required to the planning board for this work, and if so, what application needs to be used? There's not an application for a planning board on the website specific to that section regarding wetlands buffer, and it's not clear whether application is needed to the ZBA pertaining to that section or in the shoreline buffer.
The application is to the ZBA. They adjudicate that.
It's not a variance, is it a variance? Or-
It's-
There's two different types.
It's a
I'll help you.
a review, if you will.
When was that?
This was the end of July 31st.
This,
I answered
Yeah.
that question for them, by the way.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I basically said it goes before the ZBA.
So to your knowledge, did they,
Yep, I recommended a new driveway permit, which would give us the legalities to review the bridge, but it was just a recommendation. So.
Is this why you're joining us?
And I'm sorry for nosing in, but if I could just say one more thing, is that, please remember too, is that, any funds that we might expend on this, which includes the time we're spending now, which is money for the town, you are also protecting the town's people from liability if there is an accident, involving structural irregularity with the bridge.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
All right. I wish you had raised your hand. So we're trying to put all these pieces together. It appears that we have some of the information.
So it sounds like they need to do some
Have
of
you-
the ZBA application.
Have you seen this at the ZBA yet?
Oh, not that
No.
I know of.
Okay.
It's not come to me either.
No.
She just wants, her last email was, she wanted direction, whether to go to the planning board, whether to go to the ZBA, what to do, what to apply for.
Have you heard from her since John's reply to go to the ZBA?
Yeah, the other day she emailed both Sue and I, and Sue gave it to somebody. That email.
Sean?
Oh.
If we say it goes to the ZBA, has anybody checked with the ZBA chair to find out
So,
if things that
The
go
bottom
on?
part we already got, but that's John's response.
Everybody says it goes to you over here, we ought to check
And do
it,
you
to make
have
sure they know
these?
what to do with it when it gets there.
I'll
Not
just
sure.
give you this one.
Yeah.
So
If
it
they
sounds
wanna
like it needs
surprise
a
somebody.
ZBA application before they get the driveway permit.
Yeah.
And once they get the driveway permit, then they can apply for the building permit.
Right,
Yeah,
and if you.
so in effect, they really got a driveway permit.
Right.
They have significant amount of money invested in it. It just didn't sit in the shelf.
Right.
So that sort of gives them a leg up in a way, you can't just pull it. And, you know, unless you come up with something that's really wacko. It's just, you know.
No, I mean,
But do they need a new permit because it's sat for so long?
that's possible.
Not if they put a lot of money into it. There's a certain rule of thumb that the
Right.
courts have ruled that you've got an investment in this thing and that.
You've made substantial progress,
Yeah.
is the words.
And that could be old design
Yeah.
expenses, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if they've made substantial progress, which they have, by building this bridge,
The
they.
problem with this is it's something we're not used to.
Yeah.
That's what the problem
And,
is.
you know, I'm, again,
It's done
as I said,
in 2 years.
I'm content to give them the building permit based on them providing an independent certification of it and a copy of the plans. And the plans should be short money, should be
Yeah.
$12.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, now that's kind of, they've been pointing in the direction of the ZBA and,
Well,
Okay.
even after the ZBA acts on it,
Yeah.
they still have to be issued a building permit
Mhm.
for the house across the way. I just want to protect the town liability-wise to say, we've actually seen something that says this thing will work.
and there is something that came through, she references, the load rating of the bridge.
That-
There's a copy of the memorandum.
Yeah, but that doesn't prove it.
Yeah,
All that does is say, oh, this is what we designed it to. Whether they did or not, we don't know.
yeah. Okay.
But the question is if they send that, then who verifies it?
Exactly. Somebody has to verify.
It's not an uncommon practice to avoid a wetland by building over it.
Yeah.
This is a mud puddle. I got a button here, I got a button here, I go right over the top,
Yeah.
now I touch it.
Mhm.
That's been done a lot.
Yeah, what bothers me though is Liz Freeman was replacing her bridge that goes across her little creek behind her
Yeah.
house. DES beat the living daylights out of her just to do that. I mean, they ran her around for 3 months to get her approvals, even though it was the same bridge, just the base had rotted out.
Did she have to redo the base, the abutments? and
She had
stuff?
to, she didn't have to redo the abutments, but she had to stabilize the shoreline where it was starting washout because of those floods we had
Oh,
way
okay,
back
okay.
when.
So it was into the supports and what?
Yeah, a little
It wasn't
bit.
like just, I'm gonna put the new planking on.
Right, well, the same thing here, the bridge had previously washed out, they had to beef up the supports right on the embankment, and then they dropped in their I-beams and covered it with, a wood deck.
Alright, so I guess, in my opinion now, don't we have to see what the ZBA comes with? And if they even go to that extent before, because she's not looking for communication back from you tomorrow, right? Jen?
Well, she's
Sue?
gonna have to fill out, it sounds like she
Yeah.
wants to fill out the application.
I mean, we ought to just tell her everything we want to see
Yeah,
up front. That way there's no miscommunication.
mhm,
Well, that's,
Wait.
yeah, I think that being the new kids, we wanted clarification that made sure we understood, well, and I'll speak for myself, maybe
yeah,
she feels different, but I just wanna know what the whole process is so I can explain it all instead of step by step by step, and then find out we missed a step, so I just wanted to be clear.
yeah, and to be, honest, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate step at this point with us right now or not.
That's
Like,
what I wonder, do we typically insert the selectmen's opinions on driveway
Yeah.
permits, or do we?
Well, it's also not our purview to tell people what they need to file and how they need to file things. They're supposed to scope that out from the regulations. I mean, in theory, we do help them. We try to be customer friendly. But it's not our job to point out each and every regulation. That's what they have an engineer for.
But,
Yeah.
but we need to know that they're doing the right thing when they say we're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, I think those paragraphs
Or
in
we
the
need to
in
say
the zoning
we're not doing
regulations were the applicable paragraphs. She complies with that, she's fine. And then the add-on is, this is what the selectmen want to tell Rick to issue a building permit.
It's not even at the building permit, because we can't issue a building
No,
permit.
no, no,
until the
but
driveway's
we
done.
ought to say, this is, after you finish this process, this is what we would like to see.
Okay.
If that is indeed what we would like to see.
Well, what would you like to see?
well, I'd like to see that information, but at the same time, if they choose not to provide that information, it doesn't mean that they can't have a building permit. But it will exclude them from the emergency services.
Mhm.
So.
But they need to know
then
that.
No, and that's, yeah,
I like that wording a
What
lot
is
better.
those
Yeah.
things? I want to be
What?
specific and spell it out.
The rating for the bridge, the weight, the capacity.
the actual
The,
engineering specs,
That's what you
and
really
then,
want, isn't it? You want
Yeah.
something from an
The actual
engineer
plan.
with his seal
So
on a
it'd be
piece
a
of
cal-
paper that says, this is the rating of this bridge, and I'm standing here looking at it as built.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
not-
what you really want.
And I would like to see a set of
That will
plans.
tell you what you can or cannot put across it.
And, I mean, it's short money to just show us a paper copy of the plans. It's not like we're beating them to death.
is that the old regs or the new ones? Cause the old ones are different, and when they filed for that driveway permit, it was under the old
Right.
regulations.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen.
Well, the new regulations
So,
are
so
much
you want the bridge
tougher.
rigging, engineering specs, and there was one other thing.
No, I think Sean just put in the clause, or.
And, and an independent review, like from
Or,
or they're excluded from, emergency services.
Yeah.
which I don't know, can
Going
the
over
town
the bridge.
legally do that?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not safe.
yes, you can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems fairly
Or
reasonable.
possibly excluded, maybe?
Yeah,
no, not
something-
possibly,
Based on weight.
they will be,
They will be. Well,
yeah, until we have the actual plans, and then a second engineer goes out and verifies what it looks like today.
And that it was built as per plan.
Mhm.
Well, no matter what, if you compare this to other bridges, including bridges on private roads and things like that, those are sometimes subject to inspection. And, if a private road is servicing a number of houses or something like that, and really, if you're gonna have it inspected and rated, you want somebody to be able to look at the plans and know what's there, but be able to stand there and look at it, make sure the thing was built the way the plan said. You know, I mean,
Oh, yeah, we all know what can be
sometimes.
uncovered on
sometimes
as-built
the-
plans.
Sometimes the plan shows one thing, and then when you dig it up, it's something else in the ground. But,
Do you understand, Sue, or do you have any other
So
questions?
you want something that shows the bridge rating, the engineer specs, and an independent review where they'll be excluded from 911 until.
So the independent review probably should be worded an as-built report.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be more proper?
Yep. And it would be an as-built report of the plan as it is currently constructed.
Oh, it's
Oh.
getting wordy.
actually, what you want is you want a rating on the bridge, that way we know what we can bring
Yeah.
across if we need to service them.
And we want a set
At this
of
point in
the
time,
plans,
10 years from
the
now,
original
who
plans for the
knows?
bridge.
Right?
Isn't that what the specs?
Things do work.
It
So I guess
can be.
instead of
You know,
specs,
but-
maybe put plans.
I think plans would be
Yeah, plans would be
appropriate.
better.
This independent, do we want
I've
to,
seen,
do we
before
pay
they
it?
put
Do
that
they
one
pay
in
it?
there, they say.
It'll be at their
"Oh,
expense.
And we,
I've
so,
seen pump concrete across it. You run the truck over empty.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Then the
yeah.
whole truck
Or
is up here.
what's often done is we give them a choice of 3 different engineers, pick one.
Huh.
Okay.
But we've done that too.
don't want 12
So,
conversations.
yeah, don't write down any of that, and then, so they're both talking to you.
I'm trying, yeah.
So like Bert had mentioned, like the town will choose 3 engineers, and then they'll get to choose one of the 3.
Fair?
Seems, I don't know.
Who's gonna choose the engineers?
You 2
What are you
engineers.
guys doing?
You 2 can.
I'm not an engineer. This sounds like a lot of
I'll
work.
write something up and.
Eeny, meeny, miny,
I ran a train once.
Good. Okay.
I did, diesel locomotive, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a locomotive engineer, does that count?
Yeah, we got locomotive, steel, and then
I'm
what?
not.
Oh, I'm not an engineer, Sean.
across the
I'm
board.
not
Oh, right.
certified though.
I'm a
Alright.
software engineer, I can't.
I ran a diesel switcher.
Okay, so we good on this, Sue? Do you feel comfortable?
I feel like we need to move on to the next.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the horse died.
So we're into old new business, and with Jim driving the bus, the old diesel bus.
Okay. I gave you a bunch of stuff, some of which
Yep.
we get already. I gave you a budget report and a revenue report.
Yep.
The revenue report doesn't have anything in it that says what our anticipated revenue is. However, on the one that's the biggest, which is motor vehicles, we're right on target. Okay, I made a handwritten note in there. Hopefully by the next time I give you a report, which will be next week, you'll see what the expectations are.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Just before we get off the topic, if you just go to the first page
Which
of
report?
of that budget encumbrance report, we've got a couple items in parentheses.
Which page are you on?
Just the first page of the report, of your budget report. Just flip open the first page.
Well, I'm at page 1 of actual,
Yeah,
revenue.
and you got a couple,
Expenses.
you got a couple of things and expenses that are in parentheses. What are you trying to tell us there?
Well, if for example, let's come down to, just for the heck of it, the first one's a revenue report. Go
That
to the
means it's in
second
the
page.
negative.
Go
Second
to the
page.
second page and I made a note.
Yeah, that's
What,
what,
how do you get a
that's
negative
what
number
the
on
parentheses is
expenditure?
the negative.
Well, it's comparing it to what was planned.
Mhm.
Okay?
Right.
So this is a revenue report. If you look at the column, current year budget, we budgeted nothing.
Well, no, we're on expenditures, Jim.
What?
We're talking on the expenditures
Oh,
report.
okay, but it's the same idea,
Yep.
the same idea. If it's in parentheses,
Yeah,
okay? Now, I have to look to see how some of these things work. We got Board of Selectmen, travel, meals, oh no, under that, there's one here that's wacko. Board of Selectmen, general supplies,
right.
okay?
Yeah, that one caught my,
Current year budget, $3,000.
right.
Current year expenditure, $16,386. I'm just getting into this.
Okay,
I
so,
was in 2020 with the auditors, now I'm in 2021. This is why you've got this, okay?
Yeah.
So I have to go down through that and say, what did we charge for this thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's an eye catcher.
Yeah.
No, and that's why it's here, okay? And if you go further down, oh, let's see, when you get to, okay, when you get to page 13,
13.
you'll see that you've got 47.42% left of what accounting-wise is the operating budget, okay? And operating budget, put an S on it, not the operating budget you voted on, but all the things that are called operating, okay? But then when you go to the next page, you get into the accounts that start with 04909.1-703 and go all
Right.
the way down. Well, those things have no budgeted item on them, and there are budgets for them, okay? So no, that was never put in,
Okay,
and I'm getting to that. You're right, the report is incomplete in a sense, but at least I wanted you to see that operating wise, you got 47% left, and that's okay. That's where I look first. Then I come back and I start looking at these other things. But I've got to make journal entries into this thing and get this thing to balance with it's called an MS 232, which is what you reported back to the state that we passed.
yep.
I haven't made that balance with this yet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Okay, I just worry about wanking numbers, that's all.
no, and so when we get a little further in this,
Okay,
the idea is we'll be able to look at problem areas and things like that. And this one here is a problem. Do I have any others like that?
Like, they stick out with the parentheses.
yeah.
You see
big-
the parentheses?
Yeah,
You're
well,
like,
that's
it should
what's,
be a lightning bolt.
that's
Hey,
what
wait a
scared the
minute.
hell out of me.
Yeah, and it should.
Yeah.
It looks like.
All right. Thank you for getting this all set up and started going, Jim.
But, so I just want to get this thing going and,
Yep. No, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding what was going on.
yeah. And so, this is something that, take with you and,
I'm reading our spare time.
hopefully we'll have fewer questions. Well, there'll always be questions because some things, the way I look at it is some things will be overspent, some things will be underspent.
Mhm.
That's what most budgets are. That's how most of us live, if we don't go over what our means are.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we need to know when we gotta reel something in, or in this case, is something applied to the wrong item?
That's a big thing.
I've seen 2 checks voided in a 2-month period
Yeah.
for $20,440.
And they were voided?
They were voided because they were going to the trustees of trust funds. And they shouldn't be, okay, so, we got that fixed. One of them goes back over.
Okay.
I mean, money's not lost. It's not lost, it's how we account for it.
It's just hiding.
It's like, it's in a black box buried out in the backyard underneath the flowers.
Yep.
Oh, I appreciate this. This is more than I've seen in almost the whole time I've been here. So I
So
appreciate it.
I'm gonna have this for you, at least for now, every week. I'm gonna try and make some improvements
Yeah.
and in this as we go.
Jim, just to be honest with you, this is a lot to digest by its lonesome. I think
Right.
maybe every other week or even once a month would be sufficient.
Okay, all right.
I mean, unless you guys really want to go through this line item by line item.
I like to see the last page most of all.
Okay.
Okay.
I can give you
Just
a,
that.
I can give you a summary.
Total.
For example, you see account
maybe-
4130.
If
I can give you a summary, like a
If it-
2-page summary report for the operating budget. I can give you that.
Yeah, I mean,
The question is this a lot of work for you?
No.
Because I think having it weekly is a really good, especially as we come in the budget season. It's helpful just to make decisions, you know, like the rec department comes and asks for something special, we can look and see how they're doing, right?
So
then
kind
and
of
there,
like
you know?
where this is going, and the reason that like to print the report's not much work, but he's putting a lot of work into building and reconciling even 2020,
Yeah.
2020, like up to this point, 2021.
Mhm.
Cause in last year's budget cycle, the newest version of a budget that we ever got, like while we were going through the meetings with the people from the different departments, was the end of September. And it wasn't, and it seemed impossible to get an updated one, so the fact that we're able to get this weekly, that's why I'm kind of,
Yeah,
it's encouraging, like to be able to get this.
I'm probably gonna present
yeah.
the budget to you in a slightly different format than they had in the past, but this software will allow me to present you with a budget. But what I can do is I can run a routine in the program, and let's say we're in November, and we're meeting on November 10th, okay? And we're gonna look at a budget. Well, you don't want September's year-to-date. You wanna see November's year-to-date. Just a couple of keystrokes and boom, we got plenty of good printers here,
yeah.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
So,
Yeah,
as up to date as we can get it. What I can do is I can reduce this to a management summary report and maybe give you a detail once a month.
that sounds good,
That's better for me.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, are we gonna really go through this line item by
I still
line?
got,
I don't think we would, but as a reference.
As a reference, it's nice.
I think it's.
I mean,
really
at least
handy.
it's a good starting point. We know where we're
Oh, yeah.
starting at.
Yeah, to know.
But to, you know, beat the thing to death every week would be here to
No, and I don't think we're doing that now
no,
either.
no. And,
Yeah,
and
so-
along
That's
with
not
this,
the intent.
looking ahead at what we need for a tax rate, okay? Everything that's needed from the town clerk tax collector's office has been submitted to the DRA. So we got that in. I'm gonna be working on what's called an MS 434. It's a projection of revenue. It's something I can do, I don't need the board to sign off on. What's the best guesstimate for revenue? It's pretty simple. But you go online, you do it, and I'll give you a copy of it. And then when you set the tax rate, which is a couple months from now, okay, you'll know even better and you can adjust it, but you have to have something going in to start with. So
Yeah.
right now, the big thing is the MS 535. And at some point, maybe what we'll do at a meeting is we'll make a list of all these things that go into the tax rate and how it works.
Okay,
Because, you know, what all these forms mean. The MS 535 is your balance sheet. So we need to know our balance sheet in order to make, how much money are we gonna take and use to help offset taxes? Where are we? Okay, are we in the hole? Are we in the black? Well, I think we're pretty well in the black,
Mhm.
okay?
so, and then, I don't know if you reference the prior years, like in, when you're setting it up, or if you
Oh,
just
yeah.
go clear.
Yeah,
Be careful for last year's, cause in preparing for the deliberative session, I used slides from 2 or 3 years prior and worked off of that, like to give me an idea of how it should go, and then added to it. But I noticed that what was done last year was different than what had been done previous years, and the numbers were in different places. So you might wanna, cause we've had so much turnover, maybe look at a few or come up with your best suggestion, and like don't even look at any of that stuff, and do it the way that you believe that it should be done.
well, I guess where I'm looking is when I look at expenses now, okay? In expenses, I'm trying to find out why $190,000 off of what was reported to the DRA. Not in total, but in the expense side. I got the capital sitting over here. Well, I look at the form that went to the state, and I see the ambulance in the standard chart of accounts. I look in here, and I find the ambulance under a capital account number. Why do we have the ambulance on 2 different forms reported in 2 different account groups? And that's a $90,000, well, there's half what I'm missing. You know, it's not wrong, it's just not a good practice, okay? In other words, the ambulance belongs in a certain place when we report to the state. Now, and all the towns are conforming to a standard chart of accounts. So why are we conforming on almost everything except the ambulance? I know it's a separate article, but it's not a capital article.
Mhm.
It's maintenance.
Yeah,
It's, you know, and I guess we're, you know, we're paying for a service from an organization that we're a part owner in.
yeah. Yeah,
So
so, you're doing a good job so
it'll
far.
come out.
Yeah,
That's good to me.
yeah, keep,
But I will tell you, I do get sometimes sidetracked because people ask for this or that, and the next thing you know, I've got, you know, one thing adds to another, to another, to
Mhm.
another. So, yeah, and then there's been a couple of times I walked in a circle and just said, oh, where do I go next? That's
Sounds
all.
like a dynamic job.
So anyway,
Circle, but it's still movement.
Okay,
moving further down here, okay, I wanted to mention something, and just in passing. I got it here. You have a health trust report.
mhm.
We belong to the Hampton Municipal Association Health Trust, but I think he has some life insurance there and some other stuff, but not for health care. As I understand it right now, the health trust report has got to pay a dividend. And so when we look at healthcare expenses, and we look at other vendors, we need to keep in mind that the health trust, although they might cost a couple of dollars more per month during the year, may pay a dividend that makes a big difference later on.
Mhm.
And so they're returning, I think, I got this thing in front of me here.
It's right there on the third line, 37,207.
Yeah, 37 million, thousand, what is it, what are they returning?
Oh, you're not
million.
returning that, sorry.
No.
Ignore me.
How's that?
Oh, here, I got it right here. They're returning fiscal year, an anticipated fiscal year 2021 return of surplus of $37,207,827. Well, that ain't coming here.
no,
Now,
that's
we're gonna
it.
get a little bit because we're in the dental plan.
Right.
Okay, which is part of it.
Okay.
And so will people that kick into it. But I think in looking ahead, when we look at insurance, and if we go and bid this out and look at it, we should stop and realize that there's a reason why a heck of a lot of towns and cities, counties use this system. Because every once in a while, they get a chunk back.
Mhm.
And you're not gonna get a chunk back from, you know, a private vendor. And my understanding is if you look at who they use for insurance, because they act as an interface, you're in the same place.
Yeah,
You may pay a couple of cents less, but what would you gain if you, I don't know the numbers, but it's something to consider. I'm not saying jump ship or anything, but I wanted to see that because we will get a little bit back.
yeah, okay.
Was there something on an agenda a while back about an insurance agent?
Yeah, and that was from our private, you know, like the private company, you know, that we buy insurance through.
When does the policies?
It's each year,
It's
from what I
calendar year.
understand, yeah.
If you want me to get somebody down here from them and do a comparison or something, I mean,
Yeah, if we could, you know, cause like have some type of numbers or some type of comparison, you know, health trust versus what we've been doing.
there could be a huge
'Cause
difference. I don't know.
And I don't know why we changed and when we changed, cause we were a part of this, right?
Right, at one time you were.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we flipped in 2019 when I was on the board, just to provide, we were really concerned about the price tag of the health insurance, and we kind of compared and contrasted plans and made a change at that point. But,
That
Well,
may
that
have changed
sounds like a
since.
reasonable thing to do, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it had been about 5 years since we
Yeah.
had changed, so it was due to at least to get a look-see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would-
Well,
Does
it's just something I
anyone,
wanted to mention, that when you're comparing, you don't normally think of, if you're a member of the health trust and it makes money, you're gonna get some money back. Doesn't mean you are, but you could.
was there employee feedback when this change happened?
I didn't get any specifically to like the change that happened when Bert was on the board, but I did get feedback on the plan that we chose this past fall, winter, and it was a huge disruption to the employees. So there is a value to
You have
the
to
different
find
insurances, like
Oh, new doctors?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
they don't
that's-
like not a part of the like some of the different groups and insurance.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
can
favorite.
happen.
Yeah,
Stability is important,
yeah. So that's something else that we have to weigh
but so
on
is price.
heavier, because I don't know what the difference in cost was when you reviewed it.
It wasn't all that great, but it was more, what were the benefits for each dollar spent? But the costs were roughly the same, but the benefits varied greatly from plan to plan.
Okay.
And that was the reason for the change.
Alright, yeah, and even like the dollars and cents aspect that we reviewed this past fall, winter, wasn't significant enough in my opinion to make the change. But, you know, there's a board of three, so the disruption proved, you know, more problematic than it was worth. So we'll
Okay,
look forward to
I just
looking into
wanted to
that.
mention,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'd like to throw this back into the mix and
Okay.
see where it stands for 2021, going into 2022.
Because it is a significant budget item.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, moving right along, Sean, you got a letter from Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. It's quite a title, they're gonna cut trees down in the Annette Forest, okay? And this has got to do with the use of our roads.
Okay.
And Peter has a copy of this. And we will be looking at it. We can't tell them they can't come on the road, but at the same time, in reading this, it looks like they will work with us to make sure that we don't end up with a busted up road. And Hubbard Pond Road doesn't have a finish coat on it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it, well, it's not going to, but it, you know, it shouldn't until this is done.
Yeah. Do we need to make any sort of motion on this to accept the bond as written? I think 10,000 should cover it.
Has anyone gone out to Hubbard Pond?
It's been a while.
I've heard that there has been some ruts, maybe?
Somewhat?
Some kind of, seemed like excessive wear. I never
Yeah,
got
well,
a chance to get out there and look for myself.
if I recall from the last time I was out there, Hubbard Pond is historically getting ruts, and, you know, we grade them out, and next time it rains hard, the ruts come back. It's not,
But with this,
It's paved now.
yeah, it's paved.
yeah, I know they paved it,
So this is what I'm wondering.
but did they put a top coat on there too?
No.
No, see,
That's what we held off on.
I mean, it's kind of, you know, you don't
So-
go out there unless you have a purpose. It's a road to nowhere.
yeah, it's, well, no, aren't there some homes out there?
Oh, there's a few houses out
Yeah,
there, but
that's
it's
what I
not, it's not like you get to the end and there's a big village. No.
Does it,
You can drive through, or at least years ago, I went out the end and drove all the way through into, wound up in Jaffrey.
Sorry, I got caught up reading the letter.
Which is interesting.
What do you guys? Oh,
Yeah.
I think a performance bond of 10,000 is adequate. I mean,
it says they're going to be conducting their operations during the winter.
Oh, does it?
Yeah,
Oh,
or dry or frozen ground.
anticipate
Yeah.
will be completed this
take that
coming
with a grain
winter.
of salt, but,
No, I suggest that we work with, you know, forest lands and keep an eye on it. And it's gonna be done when it's either dry or frozen,
yeah. Well,
okay?
so do we need a vote to accept the bond as proposed, or do we just?
I don't think we need to vote on this
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
Interestingly, we don't issue the intent to cut, because they're cutting in another town and bringing it out through our town.
Yeah.
There's no other way out. Okay, one of the things we wound up doing, this is one of these things you run into by chance. Parks and Rec needed to be able to purchase, minor items at Bellatez.
Yeah.
So we got looking at the list, and the nice lady over there, she sent me the whole list, and we took out people that were long gone, and made sure we had the people in it that were still good. And Shauna was the one I was adding, okay? And that's how I got into it. And so the department and the name is here, and these are people that are authorized to make minor purchases at Bellatez.
Okay.
All right. My question is we've got like 5 people from fire department.
I know,
Isn't that a lot?
Maybe for emergency board-ups after.
Yeah.
I don't
it
know.
depends on who's at the fire, and somebody has to run over and grab some
And,
plywood or.
and then we've got,
tarps or something.
Public Works, I assume that's the same as Highway?
Yeah,
We got 4 people from that, and they've got a 5-man department.
I know, that means Peter can send any one of them over, including the.
I'm just,
No, I agree, I know where you're coming from.
I'm just thinking, maybe we need a little tighter control on this.
I don't know that the spending has been excessive. I have no reason to suspect that.
It's just,
It's just that, the highway crew, almost any one of them can run over there and
Yeah.
get something that they need.
yeah, I mean,
It doesn't happen often.
no, I understand, just, usually you designate maybe 1 or 2 people in a department as the purchaser.
I asked about the fire department, and the answer I got was, it depends on who's out there at the time. They don't all show up to every
Yeah.
event, and then they might need something.
Yeah,
Well, I'm fine with the way it is now, and I appreciate the fact that it got updated.
And
I just
short-
wanted you to see it.
Yeah, yeah.
all right,
and short.
Thank you,
There
Jim.
was I think Mike Abel's is his name, Abel.
Or is it
I don't
spelled
think
wrong?
Valtates will care if it's
How
spelled
is it spelled?
Abel.
yeah. As long as he's got a gun, he'll give me anything he wants.
I'll update that, I'll update that tomorrow.
You're right, it's ABEL, isn't it?
Correct,
Correct.
yep.
Okay, what do you say, my correct in this? Good observation. Next, we got a thank you from St. Vincent Paul, the Paul Society for our annual support of them. Okay. Moving right along, okay. We are due, these are little things that pop up. We're due to have our emergency operations plan updated this year, okay? This won't cost us anything, it's covered by federal grants. But the only requirement of providing a match by having participation in the meetings, which means we have to show up.
Yep.
Okay, which makes sense, so we're not gonna get far with that if we don't show up. So, they're looking for me to contact Liz Gilboy and, set something up.
Yeah, I think when I did this, I'm gonna say 8 or 9 years ago, it was like 3 different meetings with various aspects of the town. We addressed flood, we addressed fire, we addressed emergency supplies like gasoline. Where would you go get gasoline if we had a major power outage? We addressed food supplies, we addressed care of the elderly. I mean, there was a massive slew of items. I mean, it was a 3-day exercise
Yeah.
to do that. And I think I went as the planning board representative at the time. Or maybe I just volunteered because I happen to know Jim Hicks, I don't remember which. But Jim was there. And I think there was maybe somebody else from the town, but I'm not sure who. But it was an effort.
Okay. Now, I believe some work has been done with our prior EMD, Jess Allward. I'm not sure, like, to what point. These are things that we were speaking with her about as well. And then with Eric Maxwell, our current EMD,
Right.
Like, is he
He would
in the
be-
loop with this, or?
I think he would, if you really want your emergency management director there.
Yeah.
Okay, as part of, you know, part of this. And then having people from various disciplines, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Input from the
no,
police, the fire,
sometimes.
the administration,
I-
highway.
Yeah, I mean, either highway or maybe planning board could send a representative, or, you know.
I think this is the one where they also look for places that are prone to flooding and stuff like that.
Yep.
And you mark this stuff out. Probably a lot has not changed.
Yeah, it
We
was.
have some buildings that took place on some areas.
Yeah, it was very little change from the previous plan, but we did need to go through it line item by line
Right.
item, and a lot of questions were asked for input.
Mhm.
So you want somebody knowledgeable
Yeah.
of the town and its environs.
So where it
This has
stands
to be-
now,
yeah.
have you gotten a chance to speak with Eric at all?
I met him and I spoke with him briefly, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so
So he-
I know him,
Yeah.
okay, I've got to meet him, but,
yeah.
I'll-
And so
I'll
he's
get with
itching to
him
get
on
to
that.
work
yeah.
and do something, because he had mentioned, you know, like he wasn't sure exactly what to do.
This might be good for him, it's a good start. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And then as well, Jim Hicks had said that he would support Eric and the town in any way that he could. So since he was a part of that last one, it might be a good suggestion to make to Eric to have, to reach out to Jim.
Right, the first thing I gotta do is get a hold of the folks at the state
Mhm.
and get the thing started, okay? And then we'll find out from them everything they want, and we'll put, the first guy to talk to is Eric.
Yeah,
You let him know,
Yep.
and we need this in order to get aid from FEMA should we have a problem.
yeah,
So, you know, if you need federal aid from, you know, like you had a bad flood or a tornado went through or something
Yeah.
like that.
mhm.
or
Yeah,
let's say
you can't get the
ice
aid if you
storm.
don't have that in place, right?
Yeah. And, you know, usually it devolves into a discussion of our emergency management trails.
Right. So I will go ahead and get this going, I wanted you to see
Okay.
it though.
Thank you,
Okay?
Jim.
It's something I went and looked at, I gave Lisa Murphy a call.
Yep.
She came back with this. Okay. Okay, I think I mentioned the phone system already.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, off camera, but if you could, please,
Oh, yeah.
because it's been a topic of discussion
Okay,
for
one of the
the better
things
part
that-
of a year
One of
now.
the things I discovered was that, it was just like me, I sit down, look at the phone, well, I can figure out how to make a phone call on it. After that, this thing's a small computer in a black box. And, all right, how do I change the outgoing messages? That's good, I got help with that. But then I found, as Bert mentioned, he had gotten some people telling him that if you call the fire station, the message box is full, okay? Well, that shouldn't be, and then I found out that nobody over there knew the code.
Mhm.
Oh, well, I found out other people didn't know codes either. So how do I change the code on this thing, okay? How do I really talk to the phone? Okay. So I called Comcast, and I will have to say that their support was very good. I never waited more than a couple of minutes. The people were knowledgeable, and they got me into the portal, which I have set up on the computer now. Just one click, and you're into the portal, and you can talk to any phone that we have. And so you can reset passcodes, among other things. And so the passcodes have all been reset. I know when I look at, I also found that some phones had names attached to them. Well, the names didn't always match the people at the phone, so I went into those phones and set that up. And so, I mean, it took me a little while to do all this, but I got a good feel for the phones, and quite frankly, they work good.
Okay.
And so I haven't designated, well, Debbie is the other person who's associated with the phones, but I'm not sure it's fair. The town clerk is second in command she was first in command for the phones when I started, but I mean, it's like anything else, she left from in there, went over there, okay, you know.
Yeah.
So, we should have a backup, I'm not sure, but we'll come up with a backup.
Okay.
So there should be at least two of us that know how to go in and take care of it. Hey, I forgot my passcode, okay, we'll fix it.
I'd almost be happier with 3 people.
Hmm?
I'd almost be happier with 3 people.
Well, that can work too.
Yeah.
You can have as many as you want.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, that was that.
Thank you, Jim.
I found 2 substantial notebooks. Both were the same, and both have an inventory of town culverts, and they were done, I think, last year. So I gave Peter a copy, he didn't have one. So anyway, I opened the book up, if you want a little humor on this. I look at the road I live on, keeping in mind that before I took this job, for 15 years I complained about a culvert that nobody believed was a culvert until they dug it up and found a crushed aluminum pipe. So I look at this thing, and on the road I live on, which is a very short road, there's 2 culverts missing. The ones on either side of my driveway. I mean, they're a little ways out. But I thought that was kind of funny, but overall, it is a very good report with a lot of detail and pictures and stuff like that. So, we got a CD-ROM, right? Right, Susan? We got a CD-ROM, and we're gonna set that up so that it can be accessed from, you know, the file server.
Okay.
And you can look at this. And the thing I'm gonna do, and I talked to the Regional Planning Commission about it, because they did it, is, this is nice, this is wonderful. If we put it in a notebook, we put it on a shelf and nothing happens. How about if we wanna update this thing? Okay, we add some new culverts, we find some additional culverts. Why can't we have a method of updating it short of waiting 10 years and having somebody go out and count culverts again? Or could we incorporate this into a maintenance plan? You can't expect the highway department, the guys working in the highway department, to remember every culvert in town. I'm sure they can remember most of them when they get on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But every one of them?
Yeah.
It's gotta be
Sorry, because it's
thousands.
tough, there's a lot of them out there.
And that might have been the motivation behind that list,
Survey.
or, yeah, the survey, because I know that I heard about culvert flushing an awful lot that,
Yeah.
you know, hadn't been taking place, so now, like, that must have been the body of information to tell where the culverts were, and like, in order to do the flushing.
Well, the one near me that nobody, I could see it there because when I went out and walked down the road and walked, it's a gravel road, I could see a trickle coming out, okay? I couldn't see a pipe, I could see a trickle going out, and I had what looked like a lake in the woods on the other side, okay? And, once they put that in, you know, the woods isn't totally dry, but there's a heck of a lot less mosquitoes down there now.
All right,
So-
so you're gonna put that up on the web, right?
Oh, I wasn't gonna put it on the web,
Oh, okay.
but I was thinking of maybe, I don't know if we want it on the web, but I was gonna put it on the survey here so that we could look at it, or,
It's on the Tony Drive.
hmm?
It's on the Tony Drive.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a way to access that from your laptop, or do you need a passcode?
You could, if the laptop was set up, access it.
All right.
I'm not sure if we're set up that way, and we talked about the emergency operations plan, so that's a couple of the things that,
That's a good point too, Bert, because I'm not certain that either one of us has a login to the computer system.
I certainly don't.
I had one with the Parks and Rec, but,
Do we
well, you know what I can do?
yeah.
Do we
We
need
can just,
Well, yes,
You-
you're
you
a
just
selectman,
make it-
you need to be able to access the entire system to oversee it.
And then when you're not a selectman,
You get you get kicked
You get
off.
wiped off.
Your password gets bounced.
does it happen?
That's an aspect that I haven't looked into
Oh,
yet.
Well,
but
I'm just.
Yes, it
saying.
does.
I'll
It
make,
does.
well,
If you want, we can make CD-ROMs.
alright.
You know, well.
You wanna cut, it takes 2
No,
seconds.
let me ask this question. You mentioned, you know, the Tony system's available on the file service. What does it take to set up laptops to be able to access that? I mean, is it a
Or
big
this
deal?
thing.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, a notepad? What does it take to set something up so that we can, the Board of Selectmen has the ability to oversee town operations in total? Or town information?
We'd probably have to get Greg to
Yeah,
set it up.
that would be a question for Greg. Much of what's on there would be useless to you, because
Understood.
it would be the data from software for accounting systems and stuff like that.
Well,
And that wouldn't run very well on a pad, for example.
Yeah, but if we had access codes, like we could sit down, you know, like at a computer in the office and go on,
yeah, I mean.
right?
You know, and I'm gonna point out, you know, my laptop is pretty high powered because of what I do. You know, it can pretty much run anything.
But if you don't have the compatible software in
Yeah,
it,
no, you know, I
then the
understand.
data's sitting over here.
No, I understand compatibility of software or application. I'm just, you know, saying that at the very least, we should have the code, you know, access, if we wanted to sit down and try to go through, say, a budget situation.
Here's a question I have then. If I went on there and accidentally, what do they call it, thrashed, would it mess up everybody's system in there? Would it be an active thing or would it be a read-only?
I
Well,
can
it's-
probably
it's
be set up.
active. That's probably why they
It-
don't.
I don't wanna go on there then.
This
Yeah.
was-
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Maybe like
mean-
pressing this button under here, you know?
I've never seen a
Whatever
board
you're
of
talking, you
selectmen
know?
with full access to all the software and the file server. I mean,
Yeah, but the question remains, why not?
Probably security. I
Okay.
mean, you have too many hands in the kitchen.
Well, I can understand that, and as Jason pointed out, he doesn't want to mess anything up.
Right.
And I can absolutely understand that, but at the same time, we're tasked with providing overview for the town. Whether you're sitting as the administrator or
Right.
somebody else is, and if there's something peculiar going on, we should be able to at least observe it, you know, directly.
Well, that's probably why you have it, right? You have access to it because you're in the office.
On a PC that's part of the network.
Right.
And if some of the software that's on there, okay, is, got money.
Yep.
Okay, so now there's money tied to it. We have the payroll system, we have the accounting system, we have the tax billing and receivable system. So those are the things that are sitting on the file server. Okay, and then there's some other files too, okay? But
All right.
usually the people that go in those systems are trained to use them and operate them, and selectmen keep changing. Okay.
Yeah, I understand that. But to reverse my argument, on the other side of the coin, if we did have access, we would be also assuming pecuniary liability, because we would be able to change numbers, move invoices about, and so forth. That's when things get really scary.
And some of the software is a little tricky. Okay, trying to make it read-only doesn't work very well.
I think it was you that said we suggested maybe just make CDs for them.
I
If
mean,
needed.
Certainly we can make, if somebody wants to be able to look at this, we can make some CDs and you can take
Yeah.
a look at it. I mean,
Or a flash drive or something.
or put it on a flash drive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at, you know, very specific things, like, for instance, culvert survey interests me. you know,
We can
budget.
get that to you.
Yeah, no,
That
no,
we
I
can-
understand.
Actually, you're the highway department
I am.
liaison, so I would imagine Peter would be happy to show it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to him about it, of course. But, you know, also, there may be something environmental there that we can use some of that ARPA money for. Anyway, let's leave it as is on the system, and unless we find an overwhelming need to access it, let's leave it alone.
Yeah.
I think from a security point of view, you can get too many people with access to the accounting system and the payroll system. I mean, but you are in charge of overseeing it, I totally agree with that, okay? And in having that charge, I represent you.
Mhm. But we're also responsible for overseeing you as well,
Oh, I fully understand that.
so, you know.
That's
Sorry,
why
I'm
we
I'm
have
just
dog
holding
shelter.
back comment. I feel we're in pretty good hands right now.
I
That's why we have-
agree wholeheartedly with you,
Yeah.
I'm just saying
We got
that,
auditors.
Yeah, and the auditors. So,
Okay, that's all I can come up with for this week.
okay. And we have our HVAC bids coming in, by the 19th. I believe you had mentioned that they started kind of trickling in. You get a couple already?
I've got one set of bids from one vendor.
Okay. Hopefully we get a few more in the next couple days.
Yeah, I updated the website, did thing to remind them that they're due.
I saw that go out. Thank you. That was a good idea.
I wasn't here when you all planned this thing. Can you tell me where the money's coming from?
See where the bids,
Huh?
where the bids,
I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to run
So-
a few barbecues out back to cover this.
so this, we,
I mean,
It was in the works before I
we-
came
we-
in.
Yeah.
as well,
we have a
so.
dire need for, a replacement of the fire department.
Oh, I understand
Yeah,
that. I
well, so,
understand the
so there,
need.
there is this, like that little thing got turned into this whole big
Right.
picture thing. So there wasn't a discussion of, we have X amount of funds, let's go through the process to figure out how, like, best to spend, like, the money, like, to upgrade the HVAC and see how many buildings we could hit with it. That wasn't a part of it, like, the push for this. Like, it was a kind of a, I don't know, kind of cart before the horse, but then still cart behind the cold coming, and the furnace broke down anyways in the winter, and a light bulb wasn't good enough to keep it warm, which was the suggestion. So yeah, that's where this was born out of, was just kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit, in my opinion. But we're here now, like, with a full picture and a full review of all the heating systems and
okay.
how we can make it all better.
So there's this ARPA money?
But that still
That is
doesn't
a
answer the
great political
question.
insert.
Yeah, but it still doesn't answer the question. Where is the money
Where's
coming
the money?
from?
Like, well, I just,
I mean, do
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
money
I
in the
figured
building
it out.
maintenance?
It's not in the budget per se. and
No,
I-
but do we have building, that should be out of the building maintenance funds.
Okay, and that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's coming out of
yeah.
an expendable capital reserve.
Right.
Okay, that's
And
what I'm
when,
assuming.
and when we were at the, like, doing the walkthrough for the bids, it was made
Okay.
clear that, you know, one might be prioritized over another, and it wasn't necessarily that we're looking to do all of these projects right away. So,
Okay.
and that's why it was broken up that way too,
So
so
what
it
I
gave
will
us
do-
flexibility, so we can pick the pieces and the components.
Okay, so that we have a series of alternatives
So
or
I will take a
options.
look
Yeah.
and see what's available.
Yeah,
Yep,
So that when you open the bids on the 24th, you will know what's in your wallet
thank you.
besides
Okay.
Capital One.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we need to make sure we leave enough for the
Okay.
roof that's gonna
Yeah.
collapse on December 1st.
Which roof?
I don't know which one yet.
I think he's saying you need to leave a
Oh,
little.
yeah.
Little money in the
Oh,
can.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it could very well be that you pick one or two of the projects you do them,
Yeah.
and the other becomes
A warrant
a
article. or
warrant
something.
article for the following year, maybe working with a low bidder or something, you know, to cover any changes in material costs or something.
Mhm.
I wonder if the air quality improvement would be part of ARPA?
Yes,
'Cause there-
probably.
Could be, could be.
It would prevent
Yeah.
transmission of some things,
Yeah.
Yep.
just a thought.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Quiet.
Okay.
Alright. So do you have anything else?
Yeah, I just received a copy of the employee handbook draft this afternoon. Haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it does need to be widely disseminated, and we need to sit down and discuss the draft before Susan makes the final changes and edits to it. And I was wondering, as part of that, shouldn't we send it out to the employees who are actually gonna be governed by this thing, and if they have any input?
I have never seen that happen, and I work in HR. Just,
I mean, they're the people who have to live with it. And, you know, if there's parts of it that are unenforceable or impractical, maybe we ought to address those before we finalize it and vote on it. And the people who will know that best are the people who have to live with it.
I think I'd like to, I guess it'd be kinda hard if you did find examples of that, but there's probably something in there that you could point to that seems,
I haven't read it yet, so
yeah, yeah.
I can't speak to it exactly. But, I mean, they're gonna see it eventually.
The board adopted it already, didn't they?
No, it's just draft form. It's not
That's all I
finalized.
got was
I
a
was-
draft form as well.
so,
My understanding was it went to the lawyer already, and the
Yeah.
board adopted it.
yeah.
I don't.
Or, when I say adopted it, they approved something and
They,
sent it to the lawyer.
they approved what they sent to the attorney,
Right.
because it was the original handbook from
Right.
before, but then the attorney made a number of changes. What I wanna see is
Which-
what the Board of Selectmen, when I was on the board, that was when it was sent out.
You wanna see it with all the markups?
No, well, no, I just wanted the draft to see what the current draft was.
Well, no, there were more changes made last year.
Okay.
And then
Well-
it was. I can't remember, like, cause there was like a couple different approvals for it that happened. And I believe that it was to the point where we had asked numerous times to have it finalized and distributed, but
Yeah, and it just came back from the attorney's office.
what's the date on the copy that you
I
got?
don't remember the date. Jim, do you remember what it was, Susan? I don't remember what the
Did
date.
you get it through email?
I just got it this afternoon at 4 o'clock, so.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
really look at it, just did download and,
See, I didn't even know it existed. I
but,
thought we were still dealing with 2011.
No.
I
Yeah.
got a copy when I don't know, in the first month or two that I was here, I went in and asked Scott, and he
Yeah.
pulled it out and made copies for me.
Was it all marked up?
It was, everyone was stamped draft, draft, draft.
yeah, exactly.
Draft.
So,
And there was there was a lot of cross-outs and.
Yeah, and that's what I had to go through,
Yeah.
remove all those crossouts and make sure it.
and, you know, it's in the editing process, but.
That's what it looked like.
Until
Yeah.
the draft portion and the crossouts are removed, in my mind, it's not final.
That's
Oh,
what
yeah,
my
you're right.
thought was as well.
And if we are going to finalize it, one, we need to read the dang thing. And two, why not let the employees see it and comment? They're gonna see it eventually, I would assume, unless we're gonna spring it on them. I mean,
I don't know, is that a
I mean,
normal-
is there anything that prevents us from doing that?
No, nothing prevents you from doing it.
Is there any reason we shouldn't?
Depends how intensely they look at it. We may end up with a month and a half worth of meetings.
Well,
Discussing
well,
different-
you know, if people have that many
Discussing
objections,
10
maybe
hour.
we should think about it.
Then, you're right, that might have turned out to be a good thing.
But the 10-hour day situation may come up all over again.
Oh, no doubt it will.
Yeah.
There's a few, I looked through briefly, and
So,
I have a few Post-it notes
I
here
mean-
and there on it.
So, why,
It's
I mean,
like-
I think to start with, I think the board needs to have some, some feeling of decision as to, okay, we've tweaked this thing, we think this thing's pretty good, let's let the employees take a look at it and get their comment too. I think if you do it all at once, it may get be a little chaotic, but
Okay, I mean-
if you guys, you three are on the same page,
'Cause
then
even,
have the employees, you know, take a look at it. And most of them probably won't even bother to read it.
cause
I
even
think
the,
you're
like
right.
the 10-hour day discussion, weren't we talking about having that changed in the handbook before it went to print, right?
I think,
Yeah, cause even
Bert
though
and
I
Jim are
believe
right.
that
We should
the
have an
past,
agenda item.
the prior board had adopted it, it wasn't ever final, like truly finalized.
yeah, I'm perfectly willing to work it in steps.
Yeah.
I'd just like to put it on the agenda for
It'd be
us to
nice to
look
get
at
it
it
before the
one
budget.
time,
Yeah.
say, okay, these are our edits, and then send those edits along with
Why don't
the,
we have copies for everybody, printed copies for the next meeting?
I'll do that.
I already have.
You don't have,
yeah,
you already
and
got-
I'll print my own, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, if you just like send whatever file.
Yeah, just send
to
the
Bert.
file to
Okay, we'll send
everybody.
the files to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we put it on for an agenda, our.
September
meet-
7th.
Yeah, meeting that we have some light work to do. and-
September 7th?
Yeah.
And then go through just the edits that we think are appropriate.
Okay.
In the meantime, we got a little homework to do.
We do,
To be able to just bring it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
because that's 150 pages worth
It
of.
is, we don't wanna go.
I don't want to
Start.
read 150 pages into the record.
Be aware, the
And
first,
every
the
time you
first
do it
edit
for
you're
lawyers,
gonna
they
make
get
is the
pages.
index doesn't match the pages.
I'm aware.
Say the same thing.
All right, okay. Next item I had was, we received a proposal from the chief. I didn't know if we wanted to go into closed session for that
We are.
or not. Okay,
Yeah.
so I will leave that to you, and I think that's all I had.
Okay. Jason? Do you have anything before I went to non-public?
I guess I would ask the liaison to the highway department, was there any progress made on getting the flags back up?
I have not heard from Peter in that respect at all.
So
What?
I can offer some input to this.
Oh, yeah.
I did actually, I can't recall exactly why I called Peter initially, but then we got into flag talk, and he's gone ahead with the order, like to order the flags.
Okay.
And
Okay,
Yeah.
so I was gonna ask about flag.
yeah, and
Yeah,
he
okay.
understands that we would like the flags put out, as fast as possible. So as of last week, he was gonna go through and submit the order. I thought he had already submitted it, but
Any idea what that's gonna cost
That
us?
might explain the 4 big boxes in the mail run.
Oh,
okay.
It did strike
Okay.
me as odd that the DPW is taking care of this instead of the Patriotic Committee.
Mhm.
I wonder what the reasoning is for
Because they use the DPW trucks to get the flags up on the poles.
Because of the height?
Yeah.
And the workers.
Oh.
Yeah.
and probably
We
'cause,
typically use a loader and put somebody in a bucket.
oh my God,
Yeah.
safety issue.
Well,
I've seen a lot
that's
of
what
towns
happened,
do that.
And then,
Yep.
and then the loader broke.
The
That's
loader
with all the
breaks
oil
right
down
when
the
it
road. But they're in the process of taking
Yeah.
the flags down because of them being.
That was when it broke.
Yeah, that's when it broke.
That's in the hands of Primex.
Okay.
All right,
Alright. So, I don't know if you wanna reach out to Peter and have that discussion with him about, utilizing patriotic funds money, or like where he gets the money for
If
the
there
replacement of
is.
flags traditionally.
well, if he already has them,
Yeah, but
kind
still,
of a moot
it's-
discussion.
Not really, cause it's,
Yeah, I
depends
think
on where you
it's-
take the money from.
It's done, it's
We'll figure
done.
it out.
Yeah,
But I will reach out to Peter.
okay.
Yeah, the other thing too, speaking of highway department, is, I've got, Peter's gonna be calling a guy up from I'm gonna say, the lighting company, I forget the name of it, okay, the one that did the streetlights and stuff. There's a little cleanup work to be done, and, working with a gentleman named Peter Hausman from, Eversource on that.
Yep.
And so he was gonna look at that. And also, when we look at the bids that come in on the energy, Peter Hausman from Eversource said that we could get a hold of him and he will look over the bids that you award. There may be some grant money available through Eversource.
Okay.
And
That would depend on the equipment being used.
Yeah, it might be, and I'm guessing at this, it might more apt to exist when you're dealing with a heat pump that's powered by electricity than an oil burner.
Which, I think, yeah, I don't remember what we spec, I think it was
Yeah, he said,
propane.
don't hold your breath, but there may be something out there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
alright. So you good?
Yep.
Alright, so I'll make a motion to go into non-public session under section 91A3, section 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee. That's about it.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.